Hello, Cyren. I'm going to be reading through your paper one and giving you some feedback. National health care and why America doesn't have it? Maybe? Okay. It was only 1883 when Germany adopted free healthcare for all of its citizens, and only in 1943 when England gave its people the same right. Why hasn't the United States done anything regarding free healthcare? Of the 195 countries in the world, only 45 have free healthcare. While the standards differ from country to country, one thing is the same: 3.5 billion people worldwide are without any healthcare coverage. Looking more specifically, how was our neighbor Canada able to find a way to successfully create a healthcare plan? One reason, might point to Canada's long history of battling for it. Another reason might be because of Canada's slow integration process. Whatever, I don't know what that means. I'm excited. Whatever it may be, the same question: why doesn't America have free healthcare remains? I think I mentioned this on your in your rough draft, but when you use free to describe this system, to me, as someone who's read some stuff about this over the years, it just undercuts your your writing a little bit because it's not free. I mean, yeah, it's not free. But you can describe it as, I think you can describe it as nationalized healthcare, or you can describe it as public healthcare. That is just making sure you show from your introduction that you know that it's not free, but that it is funded through taxpayers, not at the moment that they need the care, but on an ongoing basis, all the citizens, well, like many, whatever, of the citizens are funding this so that it's available for everyone. Okay, taking a dive into Canada's history with healthcare, the 1930 system in Canada looked much different than it does today. Patients typically chose what type of healthcare they wanted in hospitals, which included how much they paid for their doctor. They paid their doctor right after their visit and were placed in a ward based on income. Okay. So you don't want that little, I don't think you want that little hyphen there, because it's not based, you're not talking about something that's based on the ward that you're in, which is what that means, ward-based. They were placed in a ward according to, would be another way of saying that, their income and their preference. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well. Also, if you said like needs-based, it was needs-based, then you would need the hyphen. But that isn't a piece that goes together. It's not ward-based. It's not based on what ward you're in. What ward you're in is based on your income or your preference. I don't know. I tried. There was the general ward, which was the cheapest, then the semi-private ward, then a fully private ward, which is the most expensive. Later, as the Great Depression swept over Canada, is that usually capitalized, Great Depression? I'm not sure. The need for healthcare increased a great deal, and with many people out of work, there were thousands left without proper treatment. Also during this time, the use of new technology introduced to the public, such as x-rays, made paying for healthcare less affordable. While Canada didn't have the funds to create and build a healthcare plan during the night... Whoa. Well, you'll fix that. I don't think you meant the 1930s. Their government did create an outline for when or if it could afford the plan for free health care. Okay, sorry, I distracted myself. They didn't have the funds to set it up in the 30s, but they did create an outline for if or when they could afford it. The present policy that Canada has in place today is called the Medical Insurance Care Act, otherwise known as Medicare. Probably that's capitalized, because it's the name of the program, and was introduced in 1966. Since Canada has 13 provinces, little spelling thing there. I think provinces is Provinces, although I'm not good at spelling things out loud. Each one has its own health insurance act, not a single national policy. Yeah, that was a really interesting component to me. During a spring, I didn't realize that provinces had that much autonomy. Okay, during a spring something meeting, Karen S. Palmer puts it best by saying, quote, other developed countries have had some form of social insurance for nearly as long as the U.S. has been trying to get it. It looks like that quote ends with it, but you forgot your ending, quotation marks. What happened in our government during the time when other governments were providing free health care? Okay. So I would start this paragraph with what happened in our government, because that's the transition that I need. And then go back to that bit about the thing that Karen S. Palmer said. I think it'd be better. Okay, simply put, during that time, the federal government left matters of sickness and health insurance to the states, and the states left the problem to voluntary or privately owned, I think you need an ED there, owned programs. As time moved forward, the middle and lower class in America aimed for free universal health care. However, while other countries had a large working class that created, oh right, I remember this point because I'm still wondering about this, had a large working class that created big enough support, the United States had a much smaller one, therefore the topic did not come up in political debate as it had in Europe. The history of the United States trying to provide free healthcare tends to repeat itself. Every time the people or politicians believe it to be close, they end up falling very short. Well, very short? That's harsh. Maybe just short. I don't know, maybe very short. I'm also wondering, like, apart from your writing, I'm just wondering, like, maybe there was more of a working class in Europe because in the United States we had a lot more people who had their own small independent farms, especially at this time. So, like, in the United States there were a lot of basically very small businesses. In my personal opinion, I believe that it's important for a country to provide free healthcare for its people. It can promote a healthy society because everyone can now afford to get healthcare when they're sick or injured. The cost of treatment goes down because private healthcare systems are very inflated and companies can focus on running a business instead of providing healthcare to their employees. Ooh, that's very controversial. The cost... So in order to just not have someone dismiss you by saying, no, it doesn't go down, which some people would do, you could say something like the cost of treatment can go down because private healthcare system costs blah, 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 right? And that's not to say I don't agree with you, or lots of people don't agree with you, but in my experience, that's not a universally accepted thing. I mean, if it was, we would have public national health care, I hope. Anyway, the downside to free health care is higher taxes for the country, longer wait times, and both excellent and mediocre doctors make the same amount. Ooh. Wow, there's so much here you can unpack for your future papers if you want to. Higher taxes for the country, yes. Longer wait times and, I mean, I'm thinking that's probably an accepted thing, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's always, if everyone thinks that always is going to be the case. Excellent and mediocre doctors make the same amount. Okay, like, I'm going to have to argue back here and say doctors aren't paid by how good they are right now. They're paid by, they're paid by things like plastic surgeons get paid by people who have a lot of money, and they don't need insurance, so they just charge through the roof. And some of the doctors who might be the most excellent as far as providing care, general practitioners and particularly general practitioners, make less money, but that's not because they're not, they're mediocre. It's because the market doesn't value what they do because they have to serve everyone. And okay, stop. Okay, I'm talking to myself. It would be a challenge for the United States to provide free healthcare because all universities and colleges in the U.S. require students to pay tuition, housing, and other fees that are very costly. Okay, I think I see what you're saying. So it'd be hard to nationalize healthcare because the students have to pay tuition. For a student pursuing to become a doctor in the country that has high tuition rates as well as mediocre pay after many years in school is not ideal for the majority. Okay, gotcha. That being said, it's likely that as a country we would have a massive shortage of doctors. So I think what you're saying here is that it would be hard to create public healthcare systems here without also reforming the way public colleges charge students to go to medical school. I think that's what you're saying. But I don't feel like you've quite said it yet. One of the most important topics to consider if the government offered free healthcare would be that the innovation rate of U.S. health systems would fall behind other countries. Maybe. Again, I know you're just a beginner to this, and I have an opinion, which isn't fair. but it's another place stepping away from the topic. That as a writer, it is a frequently stronger statement to say something like, the innovation, some people say that the innovation rate might fall behind other countries. Whether you're arguing to say that's true or false. If you say may, you're discussing the possibilities, and especially in this paper where I know that you're just like, this is maybe the first time you're really going into this research at all. Use those a lot. It might, it could, it may. Some people think, other people think, it's possible that. You don't have to be an expert here. No one's asking that for that. Okay, I'm not asking for that. But for example, at the end of the year when the government funds start to dwindle, many Canadians come to the states seeking treatment, typically for problems regarding life-threatening illnesses. That little piece, typically for problems regarding life-threatening illnesses, is a fragment. So you want to hook that onto the other part with treatment and do something like, many Canadians come to the States seeking treatment, comma, typically for problems regarding, that's a little piece that's like a little end piece to your previous sentence. Many of them do this because even though it costs more, they're potentially saving their life or their loved ones' lives because the higher care the U.S. can give because of its competitiveness. And I'm not an expert in this either. Maybe this is all completely, that's not what I meant to say. But as we've gotten into here, I'm not saying your sources. How far back do we need sources? Certainly when you say it's my personal opinion, you don't need a source for that. But okay, when you say the cost of treatment goes down, we need a source that says that. Where'd you get that information? And when you say that it would make innovation less, you need a source that says that, not just, I guess, in a positive way. You don't have to say that. You can find somebody else to say it for you. You need someone else to say it for you. While there's a long history of free care around the world, there are many cons, or the pros enough to weigh the cons on an ethical level is making sure everyone in our country is taken care of, worth more than doctors' salaries. Although the topic is very controversial, I hope one day the United States will provide free health care to all its people. Okay, I'm looking at your citations real quick. Those look close to, does look kind of okay. One thing with your citations, you need to put them in alphabetical order. So Zizzo Monique is definitely not going to be first. Okay, I hope that was some helpful stuff for your revising.